Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are on this beautiful planet. My name is Katana Malinowski, and I am the host of Transformational Art with Katana, making the unmanageable manageable. Welcome. I have with me today a beautiful woman, Patricia Diorio, and she is a spiritual mentor, sacred storyteller, and a professional intuitive of the tarot. Good afternoon, Patricia.
Good afternoon, Katana. I'm delighted to be here with you, truly.
Thank you. And as I was mentioning before we got started on this is you are my second guest on this podcast, and I am so grateful for you being here. Thank you.
I'm grateful that you invited me. Thank you.
So, who are you as a person?
Who am I as a person? I'm a person who is becoming more and more aligned with this concept of being a spiritual being, having a human experience. This has been my footnote, my byline, my call it what you will, my statement that has really kind of identified me for the past 25 years when I started a TV show in 1996, and it was called The Paradigm Shift. And the paradigm that I was talking about, that is shifting. And now, of course, we're seeing it majorly shifting. But in those days, people would come up to me and say, what's a paradigm? You know, I mean, they didn't even know the word paradigm shift. So I started a show in 1996 called The Paradigm Shift. And what the paradigm I'm talking about is this shift that humanity is making as we wake up, as we become more awake and conscious to this idea that we're not just these human beings having an occasional spiritual thought. We're actually spirit beings, energy beings in form, spiritual beings having a human experience. And the first time I heard that spoken was through Deepak Chopra. I think probably many of your listeners will know of Deepak. Yes. And it was in the 80s, and I was visiting family on the East Coast, and he was at a hotel in Boston, and I had heard about him, but I had never seen him. So I went and I heard him say, in fact, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Well, I had never heard that before. But you know how when you hear something, Katana, and it just rings true in your body, it's like you just know it, that it's true?
Yes.
I was blown away by that. And I thought he coined the phrase. But a few years later, through the work of an amazing teacher that I studied with, Barbara Marks Hubbard was her name, she also said it, but she credited a Jesuit priest by the name of Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, French priest, who had the audacity to say that we were God in form, that we were spirit in the body. Well, the church did not like that. And they defrocked him. They banned all of his books. And he was exiled, if you will, to just be in New York and not teach or not write. And of course, all of his books came out after the fact, and he's become a major light and influencer of people who are interested in the spiritual conversation. So we're spiritual beings having human experience. My life is about how I can best own that and be that in my life. And it has opened up all these areas where I have had to do a lot of work on the resistance that my ego, mind, personality has to even accepting that as a possible truth. And it's been quite a journey, but it's been very exciting, and I'm very passionate about owning it myself and helping other people to come into alignment with their true self as well. You know, you can call it true self, higher self, essential self, intuitive self, super conscious mind, if you want to look at it through psychology. There's a lot of different ways that we can look at that. And of course, the word, when you say the word God, boom, you know, it's such a highly charged word that I only use that word when I know that I'm in a an environment where people will understand it and relate to it. But God, divine, spirit, force, source, the unknowable, unnameable, ineffable, Uncle Charlie, it doesn't really make any difference what we call that aspect of ourselves, but it is the place in us that is truly spirit and aligned with the essence of who we are. So that's who I am. I'm a woman. I'm a work in progress, coming into my own alignment with my Christ itself, with my divinity.
That's beautiful. It kind of brings me to a couple of questions that I've heard other people ask in terms of being created in the image and likeness. Would you say that there's a parallel to that?
Definitely. To be totally truthful with you, I've always had a bit of an issue with that after I really got into this conversation about being spirit in the body, creating our reality. We are made in the image and likeness of God. I believe that to be true, but we are an aspect of God. In other words, I like to use the metaphor of the sun. If you look at the sun as God, source, force, and then all of these sunbeams and rays that come down,
right,
that is, that's who we are, and we're made of the same stuff. So we have the same power to create as God, as source, force, whatever you want to call it. So it's not that we are the God. No, we're not that. And that's arrogant to even say that. And we are an aspect, a cell in the body of God, a ray in the sun. If you look at the sun as God, we're an aspect. We're a piece of God, and coming all together as one. We're all an aspect of that oneness. So we're not separate, made in an image and likeness of God. We are that. Okay, and not only that, everyone is that, and everything is that. Everything. There's nothing that's not divine. There's nothing that's not God. The good, the bad, and the ugly. We think about all the tragedies and war and the things that are going on the planet. That's all aspect of God as well. There's nothing that's not divine.
Right. And that can be a very difficult concept for a lot of people to embrace and to understand.
I agree. I'm a bit of a news junkie, and during the last election, I had a very difficult time aligning with that place in me that would see all the participants in this political fiasco as divine. Because my ego, my personality want to go, what a jerk, or what's that? But I think our work, Katana, is not only to come into alignment with ourselves as God, as an aspect of God, but to see everybody else that way. And when we see everybody else that way, what we're doing is we're lifting them up. We're lifting them up, because I believe that the language of the universe is not English, it's frequency. It's frequency, our vibration. So if we're attacking, judging, and blaming someone, and our vibration is low, and they are getting all that negative vibration. However, if we can look at someone that we don't agree with politically, ethically, morally, that we're just totally at odds with, moving past the judgment is what's key here, and lifting the person up. I see this person also as divine. I see this person also as a spiritual being having a human experience, and making these choices that are negative choices, that are hard choices, that are choices that result in pulling humanity down, or choices that are not serving anyone because they're negative. There are a lot of unconscious people on the planet. My focus as a spiritual mentor, and I've been on the path my whole life, I would say, but professionally, certainly since 1996 when I began my show. So I've been around the block. My purpose is to inspire people to even consider this concept that we are spirit in the body and that everybody is. There's no separation. You know, each of us is a unique, I believe each of us is a unique expression of the divine in form. So there's nobody like anybody on the planet, which is why competition and comparison is a moot point. And bringing it back to creativity, which what you're all about with your work.
Yes.
If each of us is a unique expression of the divine, then each of us have a unique gift to give, a unique expression of our creativity that nobody else has. And the thing is to become present to that and be aligned with that and then operate on that. And this is, I think, what, you know, AG is doing, with both of us studying with AG, is he is really acknowledging that we do not have to give up the essence of who we are, you know, and worry about competing with other people. We can just simply express our unique talents and skills that nobody else has. There's nobody like you on the planet. Nobody. There's nobody like me on the planet. Nobody has your gifts. Nobody has my gifts. Similar, yes, but unique. We're a unique expression of the divine. And I believe that my work here on the planet in this incarnation, I do believe in reincarnation. I believe that in this incarnation, in fact, in every incarnation, it's our purpose to wake up to who we are so that we can vibrate at that frequency of being aligned with our true nature. And when we do that, when we're aligned with our true nature, then every decision we make, every choice we make is going to be moving us in a direction that's going to be positive. Yeah. So most people are not awake, but you know what? They're manifesting their worlds anyway. They're creating their reality anyway, and they're creating it by default. They don't know they're doing it, but they're doing it anyway. And look at what's going on. You know, I'm sure you have people in your life that are negative Normans or negative Nellies, or always complaining about their life, about this, about that, wah, and their lives suck. And they wonder why. And then they judge people outside of them for being the cause of their unhappiness. Everything comes back to us. We're fully responsible for creating our lives.
Yes. Yes. I thank you for bringing this up, because I have, over the past year, have experienced a lot of this journey that you're discussing. Of course, I'm on my own path and my own process that of a gift that I have to reach people in a different way. But I've also been on this journey spiritually, where I'm not aligned necessarily with an establishment.
Correct.
But I'm feeling that alignment with the divine. And in a way that I recognize where experiences or emotions or even events are neutral, very much like what AG brings to us in our teachings with him. And it's what we label it, what we choose to label it, whether it's good, bad, or, neutral. And I see people grapple with it. So I think they get those little nudges or little ahas, but they don't know how to acknowledge what that is that's coming through to them. Do you feel that you see that as well?
Yes, I think that people are too rooted in this too rooted in the material world. You know, material world, money is still ruling. Money is still power. You know, money is still pretty much the bottom line. What I'm trying to do is help shift that bottom line and go beyond the bottom line, which to me is keeping your frequency high. If you keep your frequency high, keeping positive thoughts, it all goes back to the power of positive thinking and Napoleon Hill and all of those guys that went way back to the 1800s, really. I think Waddles was one of the first ones that wrote a book on our power to manifest, the power of positive thinking. So we are brilliant, amazing, creative, unlimited in our potential beings that are here to create a wonderful life or to create a life. And if we're not awake, and if we get so entangled in the material world and have our goals be so, making the money, and, it's interesting. Having been a spiritual counselor in this community of Santa Barbara, California for over 26 years, I forgot my train of thought. Gosh, does that ever happen to you?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
I have endeavored to, as I'm in my own process of waking up and owning my power to create, I have endeavored to really keep my frequency high. That's what I wanted to say. And especially over this last year, I have a body of work I'm involved in that really helps me maintain a high frequency. That's called the I Am the Word, and maybe we'll have a chance to discuss that later. But it has really helped me to move from believing that we're divine beings having a human experience and knowing it. And when I say knowing it, I mean, like, do you know your name?
Right.
Would you say that you know your name? Yeah.
Yes.
Would you say that you know you're a woman? Right? So like I know my name, like I know my woman, I've come to this place of knowing that I am a divine being having a human experience, as Patricia Diorio,
Wow.
is, all the different characteristics of how I show up in this world in this incarnation.
Yes.
But people get too hooked into the whole power thing about making money. I think the point I wanted to make was I've never let money be my top priority, which is why I wasn't a lawyer. I think I would have made a great lawyer. People tell me I would have made a great lawyer. And there are probably many things that I could have done that would have generated a lot more money than I've generated. But I have the blessing and the gift of having been able to do what I love, to do my work, my contribution, to be in service, and let the money be secondary to that. And now I'm in AG's program. I'll mention AG Morishita, Movement Makers. I love the fact that I was just reading it today. He said something like he's presenting this work for people who, I wish I can remember exactly the quote, but people who don't have to sacrifice making good money for doing the work that they love. The golden handcuffs, people making all kinds of money in the corporate market, 6 figures and more than that, and multimillionaires, golden handcuffs.
Yes.
They're not necessarily loving what they're doing. It's a 9 to 5 and it's grunt work a lot of the times. And they may make good money, but are their lives fulfilled? Probably not. They don't even know what it means maybe to have a true purpose. So I was a social worker for 23 years, working for Big Brothers Big Sisters agencies and also Catholic charities. And now I'm a spiritual social worker. I left that. I retired at 50 to bring this message out to people that we are spirit in the body, and that our thoughts, feelings, and words are the components for being excellent manifestors. Whether we know it or not, if we know it, we're going to be manifestors in the positive. If we don't know it, they're going to be manifestors by default. And if we're dealing with negative thinking and most of the time always complaining about life, that's why our life shows up the way it does. Because we're creating it to be that way. Duh, it's not rocket science, it's common sense,
Well, that's perfect. That's what you're saying is right in line with where I was going with my next question, which is, how did you get on the path you are on now?
You mean path now, like in the past few years or in the past 20 something years, or?
The path that you're on right now. So what is it that got you onto this particular path that you're on at the moment?
Well, I've been on the spiritual path for a long time. I was in the whole, 60s, 70s, 80s, that whole thing, the spiritual revolution, the women's revolution, the women's independence, and all of this. I mean, I was a part of that whole generation. And the conversation was that, we're God in the body. Well, it's a nice conversation, but it's an intellectual conversation.
Right.
And I believed that, but I did not know that. And I didn't really have the grounding to take that in for me as absolute truth. However, in 2015, my 70th birthday, I did what I call shake my fist at God. It's like, okay, I've been helping all of these clients, all of these people to wake up and to deepen their spiritual awareness. What about me? I'm ready to go to my next level. I'm ready to go to whatever my next level is. Bring it on. And that day, on my birthday, a book came to me called I Am the Word. And it was actually given to me by my co-host of my television show, a fellow by the name of Stu Zimmerman. And he co-hosted my last series. Anyway, he said, Patricia, you've got to get this book, girl. This book has your name all over it. And I said, what is it? I've got a whole library full of books, and it's like nothing new under the sun for me. Really? He said, called I Am the Word. Well, he said that, and I could feel this feeling in my solar plexus. And I went, that's interesting. I've never felt that before when I've heard the name of a book. So I went down to the local metaphysical bookstore here in Santa Barbara, and I said, Teresa, did you ever hear of this book? She goes, nope. I said, order it for me. So she did. She ordered the book. And I went to the store, I bought it, I held it in my hands, I felt it. I felt the book, I felt the vibration of the book. I had never felt that. I'd never ever before. Well, I couldn't get enough of this. It was like water to a thirsty, dying person. I could not get enough. I read it voraciously, and it's not an easy book to read that way, but I was obviously ready for it. So I read it 3 times in the first year before I even saw this man on a live stream. The book is channeled. A lot of times people have trouble with channeled books because what you're doing is the authors claim to be ascended masters or beings from the other side of this human experience that are working with humanity, and their job is to help humanity through this troubling time right now. I talked about the paradigm shift in 1996, and now it's happening.
Yes.
Happening, and the catalyst needed to be COVID and the political climate. They have tremendous catalysts to people, saying enough. I'm, what's on the other side of that? I don't want to go back. We're not going to go back to the normal. We're going to create a new normal because people are becoming more awake and conscious. And I believe that COVID has the gift of COVID. It has really given humanity collectively, because it has affected everyone. It's a level playing field, an opportunity to go within themselves and question, is this the job I really want to be going back to? Is this where I want to be living? Is this what I want in my life? Is this partnership, this marriage, this relationship serving me? All those hard questions. And I think that those questions and the answers to those questions are going to result in a whole new way of humanity being. We're evolving as a species. We're waking up. We're going through another turn on that spiral of evolution. We're becoming more and more conscious. And when we become more and more conscious, we realize that everybody else is a part of it all as well. So we can't attack, judge, and blame someone, because then we separate ourselves from them, and we're certainly not in service when we're doing that. So this book, which I've now, and the book has, I just love the authors and the author of the book. I mean, the channel himself, he's a conscious channel. His name is Paul Selig, Selig. So I encourage your listeners to check it out. It's been life-changing for my clients. Oh, thank you. I was saying, gosh, why didn't I have the book here? Yes, perfect. So glad you have that book. Anyway, it's not for everybody. There are many, many, many paths to how we can ascend while we're in the body. But this body of work, bringing it around to answering your question about how I am being where I am right now, this body of work is about helping us raise our vibrational frequency of the cells of our body so that we vibrate at a higher frequency and we have higher thought forms and
Right.
make better choices because we're really vibrating at the frequency of aligning with our divine selves. And so what is it about? It's about ascending while we're in the body. I don't know about you, but I was raised Catholic. Ascension was like, you're dead and then your soul ascends. There's nothing about ascending while you're in the body, but this is about ascending while you're in the body. And I know that I have changed my frequency exponentially and dramatically in the last, it'll be 7 years in February that I've been doing this book. I'm going to be 77.
Wow.
Yeah. And I haven't just been doing the book myself. I've been helping people with it. I've been facilitating people's process in working with it because it's, you can read one paragraph and go, what? And you have to read it like half a dozen times before you get it. But if people do align with it, it's life-changing because it makes it very simple. When you're struggling with something, I came out of a generation of affirmations. You're a lot younger than I, but you remember affirmations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Affirmations. I think why affirmations didn't work is because I don't think people believed that they were worthy to bring it forth, or they believed that it really happened.
Yes.
Now I have a whole new way of looking at what I desire. When I desire something, even though I may have an idea in my mind of what it will look like, forgive that ding. I have no idea how I can get it off my computer. Forgive me. Anyway, what I do now when I want to manifest something is I lift it up. If I'm struggling financially, I'll say, word, I am word through my finances. And it immediately lifts it up to what the guides in the book call the upper room. And the upper room is a metaphor for a place where there is no fear, where you're vibrating at the highest frequency you can vibrate at while you still have a body, while you still are in the body.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I choose to vibrate, be the highest expression of the divine that I can hold in the body physically. And when I lift up any problem I'm having, first of all, it helps to mitigate the fear. And second of all, I let go of my attachment to how I think it should show up. And I allow the universe, spirit, the divine, the guides to reinvent it, to re-articulate it. And they refer to Jesus. They say, Jesus said, behold, I make all things new. And that's another way of looking at it. The book itself has Christian allusions, meaning it alludes to Jesus, but they use the term Christed as the Christed frequency, but it doesn't refer to Jesus as in Jesus Christ being his last name. Jesus of Nazareth. Right. Christ is like a level of awareness or an office in the divine hierarchy of all that is. And I believe that Jesus came here to tell us that we were all the same as he was. Mm-hmm. There wasn't one son of God. We're all sons and daughters of God. Mm-hmm. So his message got completely distorted. Right. And unfortunately, that has happened. And structured religion, I don't think, has really served humanity in that regard. Not that there can't be spiritually awake people who are devoted to a religion. There can be. But to say that God is outside of us and we're separate from God and from each other does not serve humanity. So I honor the illusions that the guides bring through, where they refer to, the book is called I Am the Word, and they talk about John the Apostle, who was the favorite of Jesus. And he said, what? In the beginning was the Word. And the Word was God. And the Word was with God. He was with God, meaning Jesus. And we could look at that and say, he was with God, and we are all with God. So I think that the place that my spirituality has become so rich and so deepened is this knowing, like I know my name. like I know I'm a woman, this knowing that I know that I'm divine and that I am God. And my mentoring program, which I'm just launching, is called Align with the Divine. And it's for people that really want to take a very deep spiritual dive into moving from believing to knowing. So I would say that I'm a result of all of the work that I've done over all these years of being in the spiritual conversation. But these last 7 years, it'll be 7 years, February 14th, which is my birthday, has been remarkable. My life has changed. I wouldn't even be sitting here speaking with you, Katana, if it weren't for this body of work that I've immersed in. It has changed my life. It has changed my financial world. It has changed my professional world. It has changed my physical body. It has changed my relationships. There's really nothing that it hasn't touched.
That's fantastic.
I've been very proactive. So I word everything. If I have a problem, word, I'm word through my fear of whatever, my fear of not having enough money. Word, I'm word through my fear of getting old. Word on word through my fear of failure. No, whatever. So humanity is a work in progress, and I think the biggest step we can take is to really look at who we are, the truth of who we are, own our true identity and our power to create our reality. Because when we do that, we're unstoppable. We're absolutely unstoppable. I mean, what is not magnificent, intelligent, creative, unlimited in potential about being God in the body? In fact, the guides actually make this statement that I just love, and they say, you cannot not be God. You cannot not be God, because you are that. You can be in denial of it. And they say something that's very profound. They say atheism.
Yes.
Atheism is denial of self. Atheism is denial of the true self. That's the true atheism.
Yeah, I have started the book and it resonated with me.
Good.
Big time. I've actually had a lot of conversations that were similar in nature, so it was really touching. There's a lot of it that I'm still digesting just because I was like, wow, this is incredible that I was having these thoughts. And I'm not crazy. There are other people that have had this thought that, this interaction with the divine that says, really to take off that mask, step back and take a bigger look and understand yourself more.
And then you can, I can wear the mask of Patricia Diorio, but now it's not the mask where I'm hiding behind the mask, thinking that I'm unworthy or not good enough. I have been really focused on developing a speaking career, and I wrote a speech called Confessions of a Perfectionist. And when people think of being a perfectionist, part of them think, oh, wow. But being a perfectionist is a terrible, in a way, it's a burden, because we're never really satisfied. Everything has to be perfect. Practice makes better, not perfect. Where the irony of it is that, and the guides tell us this in the book, that we are perfect. In the essence of who we are perfect. But when we come into a body in the material world, we're in an imperfect world. There's no perfect body. The body is out of balance. You got one eye bigger than the other eye, or it's like there's no perfection in a human experience. But of course, there's perfection in nature, which is an aspect of God. It's a window of God. All right. So in our very true nature as God in the body, we are perfect. And then we come into an imperfect world that we have to deal with. So to try to be perfect in an imperfect world is tough.
Yes.
And I've had to deal with that.
As have I. I am currently a recovering perfectionist. I'm working those kinks out myself right now. So, would you mind giving us a little bit more detail or explanation on the work that you do?
Uh, sure. My degree is in counseling psychology, so I have a psychology background, and I did 23 years of social work administration, so I've got a lot of background in service in that regard. But today, my work is really um, this new program I'm launching is called Align with the Divine, Move from Believing Your God to Knowing Your God. And I think that's a big, uh, it's it's almost the kind of a, maybe people would say it's an unrealistic expectation that people could actually move to that place of knowing. But I've experienced it, and the clients I've worked with
Mhm.
over the last 7 years have experienced it, because I incorporate the word work as one of the key parts of my teaching, of my
Okay.
work. And I also work with the tarot. The tarot is a wonderful way for us to understand ourselves through the major arcana, the 22 major arcana. And it really helps us to understand. I mean, when I mentioned to you in giving you that reading that you're the star and you're a double star,
Yes.
right? We're both the double star and double
Yes,
balance. Didn't that help you understand yourself better?
it really did. It
And also
really did.
the idea of finding our balance between our humanity and our divinity. What I teach now is I use the image, the symbol of an equilateral cross. So
Mhm.
I invite your listeners to imagine in their mind's eye an equilateral cross where the horizontal line is perfectly equal to the vertical line. The horizontal line represents immanent divinity. It's everything that is God, but in form, right?
Mhm.
Everything that's in form, but still God, all
Right.
right? Material world, immanent divinity. And then the vertical line represents transcendental divinity or the spiritual world.
Right.
Where we want to be living, I feel, where I want to be living is on the nexus of those two lines.
Mm.
Because if I am in right at the nexus of those two lines, first of all, I'm in the now moment.
Right.
That's the now moment. Most people are living in the past, worrying about it happening in the future. But the truth is, they're in the now moment, worrying about the past, creating it in the future, because that's what we do in the now moment. All
Right.
right. So, my work is to really help people to recognize the importance of the balance of the spiritual and the material worlds. Okay.
Mhm.
Owning your divinity. I mean, if we know that we're God in the body creating our reality and we're in the material world, we're not going to create a lousy reality, are we? We're going to
Yeah.
create a wonderful reality because we have the power A to do that. How do we do that? We do it through our thoughts. We do it through our feelings about our thoughts, and we do it through our words. Coming back to I am the word, we are the word, right?
Mm.
So thoughts. Joe Dispenza, and I don't know if you have any Joe Dispenza fans out there, but I'm a huge fan of his work. He says that thoughts are electric and emotions are magnetic. So when we
Mm.
have a thought that's electric and we combine it with an emotion that's magnetic, it's going to happen. All
Yeah.
right. So positive thought, happy feeling, boom, it happens. And of course, the more you focus and the more repetition you do, makes it happen quicker. Negative thoughts, fearful feelings,
Mm.
boom, negative happens. That's how it happens. And it all comes back really to frequency and science. And Joe's big thrust is helping people understand the neuroplasticity of our brains.
Mm.
Brains are neuroplastic. They're not fixed forever in the way they were. We can create new neuronal pathways in the brain, by getting out of these old patterns, these old ruts, by doing things. One year I wanted to help break my patterns. So I signed up at City College here in Santa Barbara for a choral group. I like to sing, but I'm not a great singer. But I was there for a year and we did two major performances, and one was in Latin and the other one was in German.
Mm,
and I had to read music. That definitely got me out of my comfort zone. So
yes,
doing things that get us out of our comfort zone help to build the brain. So
that's fantastic. Well, I have one last question for you, Patricia, since we're coming up on the end of our time together today. What is one thing you would tell your 18-year-old self?
my 18-year-old self,
Yes.
I'd say, wake up, darling. You are not who you think you are. You are so much more than that. You are unlimited in your potential. You are creative beyond your imagination. You are love. That's who you are. Own that. Be that. Yes, you're wearing the mask of 18-year-old Patricia, but behind that mask, you're unlimited. You were never born and you will never die. You're an aspect of the divine. You cannot not be God. That's what I would tell her.
Wow, that's beautiful. So strong.
Yeah.
Um, how can listeners reach out to you? How can they connect with you?
Okay, that's great. They can connect to me by my email, which is Patricia at patriciadiorio.com. My name, Patricia at Patricia Diorio is spelled DIORIO.com. Patricia at patriciadiorio.com. They can also text me at 805 280 2050.
Okay.
I'm happy. I'm a texter more than an emailer. So texting is fine. And I would prefer texts rather than calls, but a call would be, I would welcome a call as well. My website is undergoing a major facelift. So I'm in the process of putting up like a placeholder page that people can get a good idea of my work and my television show work that I've done for a lot of years at patriciadiorio.com. patriciadiorio.com. And I have another website, getconsciousnow.com, Get Conscious Now, CONSCIOUS, which was my television show, Get Conscious Now. And then, yeah, those would be the best ways. People can connect with me through my website, but you have my email.
Yes.
That's probably the best way. And I'm launching this new program, calling it Align with the Divine, where it's a 3-month program. I'm taking people, meeting with people once a week for an hour, and we'll be working with the tarot, we'll be working with the word work, and as a professional speaker, I have a lot of stories in my story bank about how I overcame, how I had to deal with perfectionism and what I'm doing now to overcome it. So my stories, my speeches that I've been doing all these years have been really about places in me that I've needed to heal. And I've shared personal stories about it. Like I'll give you one quick one about my perfectionism. In 2012, I had a dream come true. I could not believe it. After all these years of doing television, I had the guest I had always wanted to have on the show, Dr. Deepak Chopra.
Oh my gosh.
So excited. I was so excited. Believe me, I got my crew together way ahead of time. I read everything I had in my library. I looked at all his stuff on YouTube. I got my makeup artist way ahead of time. I had it all set and ready to go. 3 months ahead of time.
Wow.
The day happened. And I'll never forget, my son called me up in the morning and he said, Mom, look, relax. He puts his pants on one leg at a time, just like everybody else. And so I got to the studio, everything's all ready, everyone's hustling and bustling around. Well, my makeup artist calls and she says, I'm so sorry, but they booked me an appointment and I have to do it. So I'm going to be 45 minutes late. 45 minutes late. Well, I made a very bad decision. I could have done the makeup myself. I had a photographer there who could have done it for me, but I had to wait because I wanted it to be what? Perfect. While I waited, and he arrived 15 minutes before the time he was supposed to come.
Oh my.
45 minutes early, and she was 45 minutes late. I left Dr. Deepak Chopra waiting on my television set for like almost 20 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
He was not happy. He was not a happy camper at all. And I was a wreck. I was an absolute wreck. I mean, talk about not being grounded, not being centered. Once I got over the initial shock that I had blown this opportunity with him, we actually had an excellent show. We did it on aging baby boomers. You know, it was on aging. And it was very fun. We enjoyed it. But I knew that he didn't like me. And I knew that he probably wouldn't be opening doors for me. But, you know, it's not over until it's over.
Right.
Anyway, it was because of my needing to be perfect that I blew that opportunity, that I wasn't myself. I wasn't ready. And I can tell you other stories too. So that's also what I do.
Yes.
You know, I'm not just teaching and preaching. I'm helping people understand how they can deepen their spiritual awareness of who they are.
Right.
And understanding who they are, not only through the word, but also through the tarot. We would work with that on a regular basis. And through my stories. Because, you know, people won't remember the facts you tell them, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
That's right.
So,
thank you, Patricia. I really appreciate your time. I'm absolutely grateful for you and all that you do.
thank you.
And I look forward to having another conversation in the future and seeing how everything unfolds.
Definitely. And I'm going to be launching my podcast, and I would love to have you come on my podcast and share about your wonderful work.
Thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
Have a beautiful rest of your day.
Yes, you too. And thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, you're so very welcome. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Transformational Art with Katana. If you enjoyed the show, please click the like button and share the link to this podcast with your family and friends. To connect with me personally, please send an email to transformationalartwithkatana@gmail.com. Have a beautiful day.